The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning, and it accused me of a crime I did not even know existed. $300. That's what my homeowners association wanted to fine me, not for a messy yard, not for a loud party, for trying to save water during the worst drought our state had seen in a decade. I stared at that letter and laughed, because I thought it had to be a joke. It was not, and what happened over the next 3 weeks would end with a state government agency sending my HOA a letter that made their board president go pale in front of the entire neighborhood. My name does not matter for this story, so let's just say I'm a homeowner in a quiet suburban community, the kind with matching mailboxes, trimmed hedges, and a thick little rule book nobody reads until it's used against them. I moved into this neighborhood 4 years ago. Nice street, friendly enough neighbors, an HOA that up until that summer I barely thought twice about. I paid my dues. I mowed my lawn. I stayed out of everyone's business. Then the drought hit. Our state declared a water emergency. Lawns turned brown almost overnight. The local news kept showing aerial shots of our reservoir, shrinking week after week, cracked mud where there used to be water. I wanted to do something. So I did some research, and I found a state environmental program that actually rewarded homeowners for installing rainwater collection barrels. A rebate, free installation guides, even a small tax credit. I ordered 4 sturdy, dark green barrels, connected them straight to my gutters. Every time it rained, they filled up, and I used that water for my garden, my lawn, even rinsing off my car. No hose, no wasted drop. I felt proud. I genuinely thought I was doing exactly what a responsible homeowner should do during a crisis. I had no idea that pride was about to cost me $300, and a fight I never asked for. It started with a knock. Diane, our HOA board president, stood on my porch holding a clipboard like it was a weapon. She did not say hello. She said, "Those barrels need to go. They're unsightly, against community aesthetic standards." I explained the drought. I explained the rebate program. I even offered to show her the paperwork. She was not interested. "Rules are rules," she said, and turned around before I could finish my sentence. A week later, an official violation notice showed up in my mailbox. Section 4. 2 exterior storage containers. A $300 fine due within 30 days, or additional penalties would apply. That night, I sat at my kitchen table and read the entire HOA bylaws, cover to cover. 22 pages. Nowhere did it mention rainwater barrels. Nowhere did it mention water conservation equipment of any kind. So I called the HOA's management office the next morning. They transferred me twice, put me on hold for 20 minutes, and finally told me to take it up with the board at the next meeting. So I did exactly that. I showed up with printouts of the state's water conservation program, a copy of my rebate confirmation, and a highlighted section of the bylaws proving there was no rule against what I'd done. Diane cut me off before I finished 2 sentences. "This is not up for debate," she said flatly, glancing at the clock like I was wasting her time. The room went quiet. A couple of neighbors gave me sympathetic looks. One even nodded slightly, like she agreed with me, but nobody said a word out loud. Nobody wanted to be the next target. I left that meeting angrier than I'd been in years, and more determined than ever not to just quietly pay a fine for doing something good for my community and my state. But here's the thing Diane did not know. The program I mentioned was not just a rebate. It came with something much bigger behind it. And I was about to find out exactly how much power that protection actually had. The very next morning, before I even finished my coffee, I picked up the phone and called the state environmental agency directly, the same one that had approved my rebate application months earlier. I explained everything. The fine, the vague, aesthetic excuse, the way the board refused to even look at my documentation. There was a long pause on the line, and then the woman said something I will never forget. "Sir, are you aware that state law actually protects rainwater harvesting installations from local restrictions like this, especially during a declared drought emergency?" I was not aware. But over the next 20 minutes, I learned more about property law than I had in my entire life. Turns out, many states have passed laws specifically protecting homeowners who install rainwater collection systems as part of water conservation efforts, particularly when a drought emergency has been officially declared. HOAs can regulate a lot of things. Paint colors, fence heights, holiday lights left up too long, but they cannot override state environmental protections, especially ones tied directly to a government-backed conservation program. My barrels were not just legal. They were something the state was actively encouraging. The very government the HOA ultimately answered to had my back the entire time, and nobody on that board bothered to check. The agency did not just explain this to me over the phone and leave it there. They took it a step further. They drafted a formal letter on official state letterhead and sent it directly to my HOA's management company. That letter cited the exact statute protecting rainwater harvesting equipment. It reminded the HOA in polite but very direct language, that fining a resident for participating in a state-endorsed conservation program could expose the entire association to real legal liability. I was not in the room when Diane opened that envelope, but I heard about it fast, because in a neighborhood like mine, news travels faster than a sprinkler system on a summer morning. Apparently, she went quiet for a long moment, staring at the state seal at the top of the page. Then, without a word, she folded the letter and walked it straight into the HOA's attorney's office. By that evening, the neighborhood group chat was on fire. My unsightly containers had just become the reason our entire HOA board was getting a formal warning from a state government agency. 2 days later, I got an email. No apology. No admission that they'd been wrong. Just one short, cold sentence. The violation notice regarding your rainwater collection barrels has been withdrawn. That was it. No knock on my door. No clipboard. No lecture about aesthetics. Just silence. And for once, silence felt like the sweetest sound in the world. My barrels are still sitting in my backyard today, quietly filling up every time a storm rolls through. My garden survived that drought better than half the lawns on my street, and I never paid that fine. Every time I walk past those 4 dark green barrels, I remember something important. Sometimes the smallest, most unsightly thing you do for the environment can turn into the biggest fight you never expected to win. So if you've ever had an HOA try to punish you for doing the right thing, I want to hear about it. Tell me your story in the comments below. I read every single one of them. And if you want to see what happened when another homeowner stood up to their HOA and came out on top, you already know exactly where to click next.